This is episode 64 of This Makes Me Happy. Welcome to This Makes Me Happy, a podcast about people and what makes them happy. I'm your host, Bernardo Margulis. I'm a designer, art director, and educator, and I'm the principal of This Makes Me Happy, a design studio where I help my clients with branding and visual communications. I'm very happy to present This Makes Me Happy, the podcast, where each week I chat with a different person about what makes them happy. My guests come from all walks of life, and each of them shares their own personal happy stories. Join us every week for a unique conversation. Hello. Today I am very happy to be talking with Lorene Wilk. Lorene is a landscape design consultant in San Francisco. How are you doing, Lorene?
Hi. Fine. Great.
Else from the introduction, is there anything you want people to know about you?
Yes, if I meet you and I am interested in you, there is a question that I ask pretty much anybody that I want to get to know. And the question is, if you are with a partner, obviously, whoever we are with partner-wise, we can't have everything in one person. You're not going to get the perfect person. So my question is always, what are three things that, not what you can live with, but what you can't live without? And anybody who knows me, who's met me, who I care about or am interested in, I ask that question. It's just my go-to. That's how I get to know you.
How did you start with that question?
I think it was really with a glass of wine once, maybe, 15, 20 years ago. And I got a really good conversation at a dinner table, and everybody wanted to answer. I mean, it was almost like it was contagious. People wanted to think about it and they wanted to answer. And I've gotten so many different answers over the years. It's just so fun. I mean, I probably should be journalizing it, because you get a lot of different surprising answers. It's not always the same. And it does exclude physicality, because obviously everybody wants to be with someone they're attracted to.
And is a partner in the room when you ask this question? I'm curious to how that would go.
I've done both.
Wow.
I've done them at the same time. And, or it is just maybe one of my daughter's friends who I'm meeting for the first time. And I do love having dinners at my house. And we kind of got the go-to house for dinners. And so a lot of my daughter's friends, hang out. And I don't do it immediately. I do read people and I can tell if it's the right situation, right opportunity. But for the most part, people love it. It's so fun to watch the reaction. They immediately start thinking. They really start to think. It's not what you can live with. It's like, what are three no-brainers? Like, you are not living without these things in your life with your partner.
I'm gonna try that out and see how it goes. Oh, I love it.
I see the wheels turning.
What can't you live without? I love that.
Yeah.
So let's switch to the main conversation topic. We had a little discussion before, and not discussion, we shared before, and a lot of things came up. But I want to hear, if I ask you my key question, what makes you happy?
I would say my first initial is just connecting with a person, just feeling that there's a vulnerability and an openness. That is just, I love that. It makes me tick. I don't have to know the person. It just is a feeling of connection with other people. So that's way up there.
So I think there's two key words you mentioned, vulnerability and openness.
Yes.
What does that mean? Why were those the two first things you mentioned that you look for in a connection?
I think because, when you go from being a child to an adult, when you're a child, everything is real and you believe everything. And then you start to get older and you realize not everything you believe is actually truth. And you realize people hide behind a lot of facades, behind status, money, whatever. It just is, you learn, it's kind of an ugly part of life that you have to go through in your either late teens, early 20s. And so that became very important to me to feed out and learn how to feed out the phony balonies and the people who really just want to be real and are comfortable in their own skin. So that's just a real attraction to me in people, male or female.
So can you, if you're coming to a room and you start talking to someone you've never met before, is that something you can automatically detect, or is that a process?
Oh, no, absolutely. Almost immediate.
And what happens? Do you have, let's say we were in the same room and you didn't like me. What would I be seeing?
Well, I would not like someone when I walk in a room initially, because I'm like a little puppy. So my first reaction is I want to know who you are and what makes you tick. And I don't want to know initially like what you do. I just want to know how you think about things. So if a person then responds with superficial answers or generic kind of surface, I might, I won't ever be rude, but I would just not be that interested in speaking with them anymore for that night. I would feel, unless there was something that triggered me and I thought, God, I feel like I could open this person up, then I would probably stick with it. But you can get a real feel initially if people kind of let you know how open you can be with them. I think you really just have to read the people. And it's like people also teach you how truthful you can be. Mm-hmm. It's all about response to me. It really is. Everything is about response.
I'm terrible with exit strategy, so I was hoping to get some tips from you when I'm in a situation like that. But let's do the converse. And you're saying when people are open and vulnerable, how does that feel for you when you detect that, oh, this person, I can talk to this person, or I can connect with this person?
How does that feel for me? I feel like I'm part of something. I'm part of, in that group. I like feeling, I think in general, we all want to feel part of something, whether some people have it at work, some people have it in volunteer service, people have it with their families. It's just belonging. I think we all want to belong to some kind of tribe. And I think that meeting people who you don't know, who open their doors like that, is just a feeling of, wow, they're trusting their instincts and letting me in. So that's just a really good feeling.
And you mentioned before that you've learned how to detect this. How was that process? Did you consciously think I need to learn how to do this, or was it trial and error?
I think it was getting disappointed, opening the door, feeling it was real, and when in my younger years. So initially, yes, but then, I really believe people's energy. Just if you're aware, you feel it. So you can walk into a room and have no conversation with somebody, but you feel them. You feel if they're unhappy. You feel if they're stressed. I think I'm hypersensitive. I've been, kind of labeled that by my daughters. And I have a fabulous relationship with my daughters, but we kind of are hypersensitive to other people's feelings and our own, but almost, I think, to a benefit, because I feel people, and I don't necessarily let it intimidate me. If I do want to get to know you, I'll kind of, I've met some people who on the outside, they're like kind of tough and, they just sarcastic and funny, but deep down they're really soft puppies. They don't really feel like they give off that it's a protection, and if you can penetrate that, that's the best feeling in the world. For them to feel like, wow, somebody gets me, and they're like getting past that piece, that hardened shell or protective shell. Sometimes just protection. They've been hurt. They don't want to be alienated. They don't want to be rejected. Nobody wants to be rejected. So happiness is making people feel safe and vulnerable.
Is that equally, so you're saying two things which are two sides of the same coin. First, for you to connect is happiness, but then to make the other person open and vulnerable is also happiness. Are those interrelated, or are those cause and consequence? How do those two things interact?
I think the reaction of someone is definitely the strongest power of it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like to delve in, but there's no agenda. It's just, I think I'm genuinely curious. I grew up with a very curious dad. And everything was just, how does this work and how does that feel? And so I'm just genuinely curious. And I find, I don't know about you, but you because you're the interviewer, But in general, what I find with people is they talk a lot, but they don't ask a lot. And I raised my girls saying, if you go out on a date and, you're asking all the questions and they don't ask a question, to the curb. Like that's just not there. You're not going to get that emotionalism from that person, because my feeling is whoever you're with, and it's a new person, even if you're at a dinner party, you're sitting next to them, take the opportunity, get to know someone, ask them some questions, and it's a way of just showing interest in another person versus just trying to impress them with what you have to say. So, but I find that people go there first before asking questions. Maybe it's a feeling of acceptance or impressing someone. I don't know.
So you mentioned your daughters and this idea of telling them that the person whoever they're with has to ask questions. Is this idea of connecting with people and this idea of opening up something you've instilled in them? Is that something that you try to pass on?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're 30 and 28 now, and they absolutely care about that. And they notice it themselves, in their own lives. And just how generally people more talk at you than ask questions. And the people who stop to care and wonder are the people who we tend to be attracted to. I'm sure my influence got in their heads. And so, yeah. But I that's also part of, to me, happiness is somebody, not just you taking interest in someone, them taking interest in you. I think it's a nice connection.
Yeah, not just giving, but giving and taking. It's a mutual relationship.
Yeah, I think a lot of friendships, there's and marriages and any kind of relationship, really, that there's, the people who are cultivators. And the people who take from the cultivators. And I think the key is if you can be aware of that as you're going through your, creating these relationships, that you find the happy medium. Because I think overall, over time, the cultivator will become resentful. Because you kind of need it. It doesn't have to be tit for tat, but I think generally we all want we want people to be interested in us. And I like to be interested in people too. I just love hearing what people have to say.
So as we talked earlier, and you part of the stuff that you've done in the past involved working with other people, family and child services and with community, versus now you're helping people in other ways. Is there a difference how you help them, how you interact with them?
I'm always me. So no, I don't think so. I think the gratification is different. I think, going into somebody's yard that's looking like nothing and then creating an entire new feeling and environment is like, it's a shallow, superficial excitement for me to watch somebody, come home at the end of the day after I've done a piece of the work and have them be really excited and be so grateful. And, I like that, but I can't say that nearly gratifies me. It gratifies my creative juices, but as far as my heart to heart, no. Working with people, I visit seniors, giving a senior an hour or two of your time, and actually making the time to sit with them and listen to them, and the gratefulness they feel for it. Oh my God, there's nothing that even comes close. And I leave very happy when I do that. And I'm not talking, I'm just listening in that situation. But I love it. I love that they are just like, God, I can't believe you came again. Just because they're not used to that. Seniors don't get a lot of that attention. So I do that. But, I think generally, I think it's a choice you make every day when you get up happy, all these things that I'm talking about. Yeah, this makes me happy. That makes me happy. But I just think every day it's a choice. And some people have the ability to do it easier than others. And so I never judge it. Some people have more serotonin than others. And I genuinely think there's a physicality and chemical balance in our brains. And some people are dosed with a lot more than others genetically. But ultimately, even with all of those, we have to make a choice every day. Are we going to have a great day, or are we going to have I'm in the wrong line. I'm in the wrong lane.
Mhm.
That, that that's the kind of people I beeline it. I just
Mhm.
beeline. I feel, unless I feel I can be significant in that moment and change the way they're thinking about it, but it's not really my job to do that. So I try to sometimes I'll just say something really light, like life's short, or don't let that it happens to all of us, But in general, I just feel we live in a stressful world, and your generation is so different than me growing up. It was so much simpler, and the pressure is higher, and having accessibility to people 24/7 is a double-edged sword. I think that I think we all want to be witnessed in our life. I think that's ultimately what life is being in life witnessed. But being witnessed 24/7 is a little overwhelming. And I think we lose eye contact. We lose voice. We lose, you know, general affection and warmth, because you're doing a lot like we're doing on the phone. I didn't get to shake your hand. I didn't get to give you a hug. I think that we live so much in a cyber world that we lose a lot of the very simple things that human beings need and makes them happy instead of feeling alone. I think cyber can make you feel very alone. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I think getting up in the morning, deciding how much of my day am I going to be online? How much of my day am I going to maybe make an effort? I always tell my girls, once a day, just do something. Like, I don't care what, whether it's open a door or help somebody with, just do something, take an action that, like, you went out of your way to do it, period.
And I think there are a few things that I took notes on, but one of the things you mentioned, how we make a choice to be happy. I read this book, and I always forget the why of happiness, and the author says that happiness is 50% genetic. We can't control it, as you said. Some people have more serotonin, some people have less. We can't control it. 10% is circumstantial. Again, we can't control it,
Mm-hmm.
and 40% is what we can choose, what we can decide day by day to be happy. And I guess what you were saying, that choice. So you wake up every morning and you make that choice. Do you take actions to be happy? Is that still a conscious choice for you?
I don't even take the action. I just wake up, and it's an emotional connection in myself. I just wake up, and I think as a little kid, even, I was excited to get up in the morning. So it probably is the serotonin too, but I just always was excited to start the day. I don't know. I don't sleep a lot either, so I must be excited to get up, because as soon as I'm just a tiny bit awake, I want to be up and I want to get going. And I have very high energy, and I like doing a lot, and my brain is, but not to where I can't, like, I could sit and focus and talk to you and sit quietly. But I think I just have a need to embrace the day. I just want to, and it's an emotional thing. I have a saying on my desk, which I could show you, but I don't want to mess with the phone. But it says, if you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, change the way you think about it. And I just have lived that my whole life, because I'm not happy with everything. It's not to say that I don't feel negative about things, and if I can change them, I will. But there are things, like you said, you cannot change them. They are circumstantial. They are out of your control. So then the choice is to either dismiss yourself from it or just change how you think about it. And I tend to do that more than dismiss. I've done the dismiss thing. I have, but I don't like the way that feels either. I think just changing the way I think about it is a great Band-Aid. I go to that on days where I don't feel so great. But for the most part, I kind of wake up and say, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm glad I'm not going to chemo. I'm glad I'm not waiting for test results. And I do that every day. It's just kind of crazy, but I always always felt there were windows of time for things. I've always had like a high awareness of, this is this time in my life, and I need to relish. I need to relish in it. And I think my brother and I grew up with a lot of appreciation, maybe because my parents were Holocaust survivors. We grew up in a very dysfunctional home, Not to take away from the dysfunction, but I would say, if anything, I got that. And so did my brother. We both have like this crazy need to appreciate and talk about the gratefulness of things that are taking place. So I think that is a form of reminder every day, a reminder every day.
And how do you deal with those days that you need a little extra push?
I take an action. Like I told my girls, I do something. I force myself to go do something that's going to feel good. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot.
And why do you think it's so important? You mentioned taking action that shows that you care, that you make the effort for someone else. Why is it so important to do that?
It gives you a feeling of significance. To me, it's a feeling of significance. So if I'm taking an action, whether it's to help somebody carry something that looks like it's really heavy, I mean, it could be just so nothing. But in that moment, I rose to the occasion and I chose to be that person instead of wait for the next guy to help that person and watch somebody else help that person. I rather just be the one who does it. So I'll jump on the opportunity. Boom. So I guess it just is the feeling of I'm jumping on the opportunity and I'm making it in that very, very small moment. That person's going, hey, thanks. It's like a human connection, I guess humanity, kindness. And it's not to say I don't have bad thoughts. It's not like but I think kindness that's one of my top three. When I said, we talked about that earlier, but kindness it brings a lot of joy.
So if you had the perfect day, perfect week, where you can have a perfect connection, the perfect moment of kindness, what would that look like?
A quality one-on-one quality time with in person, not on the phone, not on cyber. Surrounding myself in some kind of calm environment, whether it's some kind of nature environment. I love being in nature. Doing something physical. Love being physically active. So I would say taking a hike in a beautiful environment with someone that is vulnerable and open and just sharing thoughts and appreciation while doing it. And even just, I don't even want to make it like a romantic thing because I would feel that way with my girlfriends. But I do think in a relationship that there's nothing that is more romantic than doing something new together, learning something new together, or doing something scary together. Those are, to me, like I don't think you can connect more than those three things. Whether you're doing it with a friend or a lover, just think they keep a relationship alive and exciting, and not exciting because that sounds so superficial. Just because it triggers your inners. It's those fear and learning. I mean, you got to be on top when you're doing those things. You're not just being complacent in that moment. So I think they're really good. They're good triggers.
And then I'm going to throw your question back at you. What three things can you not live without?
Oh, God. It changes over the years. So that's something, too. It's I've always asked that question, as I've told you. And I think at different ages in your life, they change. But I would say at this time in my life, kindness, as I just mentioned, affection, warmth, expression of love is huge. Intelligence, depth, top threes.
Love
passion, it. I guess passion with affection, like passionate about passion. Oh, that would be a hard one to choose between. See, I'm cheating right now.
You're choosing 20, but then grouping them into three categories.
I feel like if you're passionate, you're affectionate. Like that's just you're passionate about how you're expressing yourself. So I'm going to say passion more than because that would tie in and intelligence and kindness. Huge for me.
Okay, Lorene, now I want to do a rapid fire section. I have a few quick questions about what makes you happy, and I want your quick gut reaction. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Who is the happiest person you know?
Me.
Do you have a happy color?
Purple.
Do you have a happy food?
meet.
Finish the sentence. I'm happiest with.
My family.
Finish the sentence. I'm happiest when.
I'm being stimulated intellectually, and emotionally.
And what is the last thing you remember that made you happy?
I visited a senior yesterday who I adore, and she gave me a bracelet. And it was just a sweet, sweet hour. And that just was the last thing that happened.
And I realized we talked before the recording about your work with seniors and your work with community. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. Yeah, I think in general, I would say the happiest places on earth are for people in general is feeling part of something. I just think it's very basic, and it's not a specific organization. It's just or religion. It's just when you feel part of something. It could be work. So I really believe that if I continue to do that, I'll always be happy. So I go to visit people who are isolated because they don't get that opportunity anymore. So seniors became very huge for me. Plus, I didn't grow up with grandparents because they were perished in the Holocaust. So I really was hungry to have, time to sit with an older person and hear what they have to say. And I guess I always did feel they were wiser. What I didn't realize is how much they appreciate young people giving them time. And so for me it just started from the beginning, just my first, some people are miserable, there's always miserable people. You can find them everywhere. But for the most part, people who are isolated, can't get out, to have a young person actually choose to come see them and ask them questions about their life. There is the joy of that is so, it's not really describable. You just leave feeling like you did something. You made a difference in that person's day, and it goes back to that significance. I think in general, we all want to be part of making a difference or being part of creating an event that's going to be moving or educational. I mean, I think education's huge. Teaching is huge. Learning is huge. So overall, I think that, being in a classroom or teaching in a classroom, all those types of things, that being part of volunteering is so selfish. Don't think it's not. Because when you volunteer, it's just, you want to feel good about yourself, so but you're helping, you're actually doing something positive. So I wouldn't say it's just all kindness. It is selfish because you want to feel that happiness. For some people, they do other things. Some people love catching a big fish. That makes them really happy. So it's very relative. So relative. But for me, that works. I like that feeling of when I've worked with people on a committee who all are working toward the same thing. If I work with someone on a project, my landscape, I love watching someone come home, especially when the plants go in and, the stonework's been in, the light's in, the woodwork's in, but somehow when you bring the yard to life with all the plants and the trees and watching people just get blown away. I mean, it's just fun. It's like, it's just the moment of people's reactions. I'm all about response, and I'll finish on that note if you'd like to. But I really do believe that, and I worry about that with our world because I think response is everything. Whether you're talking about in a conversation, sexually, intellectually, I mean, how people respond to you is how you're going to react. So, to me, reaction is really just the outcome of a response. And I just try to always keep that in mind so that when I respond, and I fail. Sometimes I fail. Ask my daughters, they'll tell you. But I think that if you keep it in an awareness in the front of your mind that you're teaching someone how they can be with you by the way you react to them or respond to them. So being not, judgmental sucks, horrible for people to share their heart and then feel judged. That's probably the worst. That would be my biggest unhappiness is, just feeling like I'm trying to be me and I'm being judged for that. So I think that would probably be one of my highest qualities is no matter what you're going to tell me, I'm not going to judge it. I mean, I may judge it like in my head, but it'll be very fast. It's like, oh, no, I really, there's more to why that happened, or why people lie. There's reasons people lie. It's not, people don't want to lie. I think they're either trained or they've been honest and they've had really bad experiences. And so they learn to lie. But it's about response. So that's all. I feel happy when I can share those things. I do. Like having this interview is very cool for me because it gives me a little podium. When David, my nephew, told me about it, he goes, would you want to do it? Because you'd be so great. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could do it. It kind of sounds fun. And he actually gave me the best compliment. And I would say what makes me, maybe that wasn't the last thing that made me happy, but when my nephew tells me, you're my mentor, like that is, I mean, I don't think there's a better gift in the world, just to have somebody that has grown up around you tell you that. So yeah, I would say that's my biggest pride in life is being a good mentor to people, and it gives me a lot of joy.
And I'm so happy you connect this because I just have a smile through the whole thing, and I just feel this positive energy, this whole conversation. I know you said you're not a big fan of cyber, but if people want to learn more about you or connect with you, is there a way to do that?
I mean, I'm on Facebook. I do have an email address. I don't have a YouTube or anything like that, so I don't really know what my options even would be. I'm not quite sure how that works.
Just listen to this podcast over and over again, and we'll get more of that positivity.
Yeah, I mean, to me, just if I could just make any difference in somebody's day to just wake up, and even if it's a bad day and bad things are happening, just change the way you think about it. And it can always be worse. Always, always. Everything. I think the worst, saddest thing is suicide because things do pass. Like they just do. I don't know how, but they just do. And you just have to remind yourself, no matter how depressed you are. And there's a lot of people depressed. And just if they can listen to my video and just know that take an action, do something that makes you feel you made a difference in that, just in a millisecond. It'll make you feel better. It'll make you feel just a little bit of yourself.
Lorene, I'm so happy you joined me, and I know that people are going to be very, very happy to hear you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lorene, for sharing what makes you happy. And thanks to David Markovich for making the connection. A special thanks to Jason Zappolo for ending this episode, Orly Margulis for help with social media, and Rocio Castañeda for ongoing support. You can listen to past episodes and learn more about this project at thehappypodcast.com, and you can find us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at thehappypodcast and youtube.com/thehappypodcast. You can find us on iTunes and subscribe to get all the updates on your device, and if you give us a 5-star review, more people can find us. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon.